Hi, my name is Parth Prakash, and I will be presenting on the article "Online Hate Speech" by Alexandra A. Siegel. I'm presenting the second part. Introduction. These are some common questions that I will be addressing during my presentation. Which groups are most likely to be the targets of online hate speech and why? How common is online hate speech and what type of platforms experience it the most? What ideas are individuals who engage in hate speech spreading most commonly? What events or occurrences spark or increase episodes of hate speech online? What is the real life in-person impact of online hate speech, and what happens if online hate speech is not addressed? How can online hate speech be fought most effectively? Common targets of hate speech. People who are targeted online are usually attacked for how they look like, as well as their gender and ethnicity and sexual orientation. People who are attacked online usually spend a lot of time online and are more likely to be verified on outlets like Twitter and have more activity on their accounts like retweets. Statistics show that people who are attacked online are 40% more likely to be verified than the general population, and 60% more likely to be verified than the people who engage in hate speech. Public figures are much more likely to be attacked online, like actors, politicians, and journalists, and many attacks on these figures are coordinated for maximum effect. So, like when people, collaborate and work together to spread hate speech, they receive more media attention, like the news, which is why they do it. And a common tactic that they use is to send hateful content to people over and over again. So it'll be like several people sending content to one person over and over and over again. Um, Twitter has public figures are much more likely to. Oh, I'm sorry. Twitter has especially been favored by users of online hate speech. The editor of the Atlantic magazine referred to Twitter as a cesspool for anti-Semites, homophobes, and racists. The name of the editor who said that, I believe, is Jeffrey Goldberg. Hate speech, a closer look at hate speech. Hate speech is a very small percentage of comments and posts on social media pages, and assertions that social media platforms are full of hate speech, like the ones made by the editor of The Atlantic and other journalists, are untrue and very misleading. Twitter is used by 1/4 of the US population, and to say that everyone on Twitter is engaging in hate speech is, it's not very true. And also, platforms like Twitter are used in countries that where free speech is, suppressed, and it's used by activists fighting for free speech. So it's wrong to demonize platforms like that. Uh, by saying that stuff that is done by a small minority is done by everyone who uses those platforms. On days where Twitter has a large amount of hate speech, the percentage of hate speech compared to other content is only part of a percentage point. Despite these findings, many people report having experienced hate speech. 53% of Americans and 39% of British people report having experienced hate speech. Experts have found that there is a rise in Islamophobic hate speech after terrorist attacks in Western countries, and also Shia hate speech after Shia mosque attacks in Saudi Arabia. There was also a rise in hate speech after the 2016 election and the 24/15 Baltimore protests, as well as the Supreme Court decision that legalized same-sex marriage. What are the impacts of hate speech? Research shows that hate speech has some of the same impacts on victims uh, as, uh, as victims of hate crimes, like fear and long-term emotional pain. Some examples of how online hate speech has caused actual violence are Facebook being used to organize violence against Muslims in Sri Lanka, as well as and against the Rohingya people in Myanmar. Researchers say that racist hate speech can cause an increase in minority attacks and cause majority populations to be desensitized to such attacks and racist hate speech. Many African Americans who have been victims of racist online hate speech have report experiencing anxiety and depression due to these experiences. How can online hate speech be fought? One way that online hate speech can be dealt with is to moderate platforms by banning groups and users who spread hate speech. The European Union teamed up with Facebook, Microsoft, and Twitter and YouTube to remove hate speech, partly because they thought it would reduce terror attacks. In 2017, after the white supremacists Unite the Right rally, Twitter banned many accounts that shared white supremacist content and banned a prominent far-right commentator. Another way to fight online hate speech is counter speech, which is basically speaking out against hate speech. An example of counter speech is after the 2015 Paris attacks, most tweets posted in relation to it were defending Muslims, and only a small amount of them were hate speech. Conclusion. Common hate speech consists of attacks on people's appearances, sexuality, and ethnicity. And people who are attacked most likely spend a lot of time online. Many public figures, like politicians and journalists, are subject to vicious online attacks, especially on outlets like Twitter, though evidence finds that hate speech is a very small part of the content produced on online platforms, though it is portrayed otherwise by the media and specific journalists. Many people in the US and around the world have reported they experience hate speech, and after a tragedy like a terrorist attack, online hate speech has been shown to rise. The effects of online hate speech are similar to having suffered an actual hate crime, like suffering from anxiety, depression, and long-term fear. Two ways to fight hate speech are to moderate content, which involves removing or banning it, and counter speech, which is replying to and actually speaking out against hate speech. That's my presentation. Thank you for listening.